Welcome to BBC School Report. My name is Toby.
And I am Adam.
On today's show we'll be talking about the growing County Lines investigation, and we will be interviewing a local member of Devon and Cornwall Police about what it is and why it has escalated so quickly. Over to Michael and Jago with the full story.
Hi, my name is Michael.
And mine is Jago.
And welcome to our Young Reporter news story. County Lines is a way of smuggling illegal products and people between counties such as Devon and Cornwall. This is a growing act of smuggling and dealing drugs, weapons and people has been a worrying problem for police around the country for more than a decade and slowly making an uprising again.
Police are especially worried for younger members of the public who are vulnerable to abuse and being used to smuggling money, drugs in this way. Many young people in Devon and Cornwall have already been affected by County Lines. It can also be involve young people from other countries being moved to Cornwall for short periods of time.
This can have a huge effect on the person's health, both mentally and physically, and can also endanger their future careers and prospects.
We spoke to Sarah Ings from Cornwall Police about the growing problem. Can you explain briefly what is County Lines?
Right. I guess the County Lines, it's not really one single investigation. For us, County Lines is another method used by organised crime gangs or groups to traffic drugs, people, money, whatever. And so it's an ongoing, rolling operation, really. And but we have to take each time we see a new gang cropping up, we have to take it as a new incident, if you like. So each time it's a new investigation, separate investigators, but we work on the same principle each time. Method of communication, so it's the telephone is the line. That's the county line.
How is this affecting Cornwall in particular?
The way we work is that we put a lot of emphasis on the telephones themselves, on the telephone numbers, and we have fantastic people in the back room who know exactly what they're doing, and they are able to use loads of software and put together these patterns so we can see where the phones are. So our county lines at the moment into Cornwall, we've got one from London, which is very active. We've got one from Nottingham, we've got one from Liverpool and Birmingham. And people think that, I suppose they are quite remote from us, these places, and they don't mean much to anybody. But those gangs, what they do is they take young people from their area and they parachute them into areas that they don't know. So, say for example, you are a young 16-year-old from North London who's never lived anywhere else in your life, never really been anywhere else, and you're put in a car in the middle of the night, you're driven 6 hours away, and you're kicked out of the car and put in a horrible, smelly, dirty flat and told to stay there for 2 weeks and you'll be picked up, and then you can go home. So that's what's happening, basically.
Wow.
So young people, same age as the young people probably doing this project, are being used by gang leaders who are, call them gangs is probably wrong, they're actually businessmen, who then use these young people to sell drugs for them. They have all sorts of other people involved, it's not just young people, there's all sorts of people involved. So they'll have people who are the money, do with the money, there are people who will organise accommodation, there are people who will cuckoo other people so that they've got somewhere to put these young dealers into, and they've got people who are their communications experts, so they'll always have phones ready for them. So there's a lot going on all behind it. And to say that it doesn't affect Cornwall is completely wrong. So these gangs are focused on major cities, but the way they make their money and how they're so successful is that they parachute into smaller places like Saltvinds and Austell, Launceston, Liskeard, and they'll be there for 2 or 3 weeks, they'll sell a lot of drugs, and then they'll go away again. By the time we realise what's going on, they've gone. Very, very fluid, very, very clever at what they do.
What advice would you give to teenagers and young people who might be vulnerable to these things in Cornwall and Devon?
Right. There are two issues, really, I see it for local teenagers, is that the people trafficking, so that's these young people being dropped in, it's not it's not a one-way thing. It's a two-way thing. So I know of a young person, perhaps a little bit older, say about 18, 19, who was then trafficked back up to London to sell drugs there. But obviously you become very embroiled with the situation. So my advice is two things. So you're at risk, the girls particularly at risk of sexual harm as well. And young boys are often used as runners. And it's not just running drugs, you could be running money, because they may have 2 or 3 places where they want it. So be careful of somebody offering you something that seems too good to be true, because it probably is. And the other thing is to look out for your friends as well. Because somebody's suddenly got new trainers, who've got access to money, access to alcohol, and is constantly, it might start out brilliantly, but actually, after about 2 or 3 weeks, it gets really difficult because there's more and more pressure from these people. And suddenly they're looking over their shoulders, their families are at risk, not their friends so much, it's a bit more fluid, but definitely they use the threats to people's families and things like that, which is huge. That is a huge thing in somebody's life. If you're 16, 17, 18, and you're constantly worried about who's going to be at your house, as in your parents or your siblings, that's an awful thing to be feeling. The other thing to watch out for as well is that you don't get sucked into their ideals, because it is the drugs they're offering as well are very hardcore. So we're looking at A-class steps generally. So they'll start out with a bit of cannabis, maybe a few pills, but it doesn't matter. Think about, where does that come from? What's the route that was got to street? And there's a lot of people trafficking behind every bit of drug that anybody takes. Forget the fact it's illegal, there's an ethical issue behind it as well. So my advice is have a really good think about it, because you might think about where your meat comes from, you might think about where your milk comes from. But a lot of people lose their heads when they think where their drugs have come from. You think about who's been abused to get those pills made, who's been abused to get that cocaine prepared and trafficked across from Colombia or wherever. There are all sorts of issues, really. And it's also think about your future. If you are that young person stuck in that house and you're full of drugs on you, you can forget travel, you can forget going anywhere, because you're not going to get a visa to leave the country if you've got a drug offence against you. There's loads and loads of issues, and my advice to people is just keep an eye on each other. And if you think that somebody is getting in too deep or they're a bit too flash, then tell somebody. There's a lot that we can do to help them. And it may not be the police who are the best people to do that for them. We may actually direct it to another agency or another partner agency. Because the last thing we want is for young people to get convictions. That's their lives ruined. We really want to make sure that we get the best advice and the best help into the young people.
We are producing 300 million tonnes of plastic each year, and around 8 million tonnes of that ends up in the ocean. Today, Ollie and Harvey talked to Sam Batchelor, a local university student, to find out more.
300 million tonnes of plastic every year, half of which is for single use. More than 8 million tonnes of plastic is dumped into our oceans every year. While plastic thrown into landfills contaminates the soil and groundwater with harmful chemicals and microorganisms. The effects of marine pollution caused by plastic are immeasurable. Just like on land, even in the oceanic areas, the effect of plastic on marine life has started to be felt. A local project, the fund was launched in the summer of 2017. It was created by Pat Smith, who had enough of going to the beach and seeing plastic. Her mission is to make Cornwall the first officially plastic straw-free county. She is trying to raise awareness for the damage we are doing to our oceans. Pat accepts the fact that her generation is responsible for the 88 billion tonnes of plastic that has been made since 1948, and she is determined to do her bit for the planet. Pat and her dedicated team of volunteers run a passionate campaign in partnership with local businesses to reach their goal. Reducing single-use plastics is something we can all do to reduce the overall impact on our planet. However, there are other ways we can be thinking about preserving our planet for future generations. Sustainable development is way people can use resources more effectively and with less impact on our environment. Plastic straws are something we can look at in the present, but what about the future? We could talk to Sam Batchelor, a local university student, to find out more.
Can you explain to us what is sustainable development?
Sustainable development is about ensuring that we live our lives today in a way that means future generations don't have to compromise the way they live their lives and they're able to do everything that they want to do.
How can we stop plastic pollution in the long run?
So plastic pollution is already a huge issue with over 5 trillion pieces of plastic predicted to be in the ocean. So one of the best ways to stop this getting any worse is to really cut down on our uses of plastic, particularly single-use items such as water bottles and carrier bags. So it's just limiting the plastics that we use to cut them out of going into the system that will really make a big difference. So within the home there's so many things that we can do. One of the best ways is to, when you're shopping for your fruit and veg, is to always opt for the loose unpackaged items rather than the ones in the bags. And it can also mean that you cut down on food waste, so you're kind of getting the 2 for 1. Another great way is toiletries, so you can get solid toiletries in a bar rather than in bottles, and this is again another great way of cutting down the plastic that you're bringing into your home and eventually that's leaving your home as waste.
What's an alternative material to use other than plastic?
So it depends on what you need to use it for. So metal's a great alternative for those sort of longer, more durable items such as straws or reusable bottles. But then if you need sort of a single-use item such as a bag or some packaging, then paper is a great alternative.
Why is it important to look after the planet?
So on the planet, humans are such a tiny percentage of all the life, but we're causing such a detrimental impact. And in the last 50 years, over 50% of species have become extinct, and most of that is down to us. So we need to start thinking about how we're living and the decisions that we can make to make sure that we're having a less detrimental effect on all the other life on this planet.
And do you support Pat's attempt to clean up Cornwall?
I think what Pat's been doing is really great, and you can't go anywhere in Cornwall without seeing her fun straw stickers in the windows, and I think individuals like that who are really determined are a great way to sort of tackle the issues that we face.
And is plastic pollution a global issue?
Plastic pollution is definitely a global issue and will affect everywhere, but it's also very much a local issue, and especially here in Cornwall, we can really see the impacts that plastic is having. So I think finding solutions for the problems on a local scale and making small changes at an individual level or as part of a community will be a great way to help the issue have a local and global impact.
Thank you for talking.
Thank you.
We now all know that plastic pollution is a big problem. Now, what will you do to prevent further loss of marine life in our oceans? To find out more and to get involved, check our Surfers Against Sewage, the Final Straw, or the National Trust Beach Clean. You could even organise your own beach clean.
Thank you, Ollie and Harvey. In other news, gene editing is a controversial subject. Livy, Amelia and Hannah have more on a story from China where a second woman is pregnant due to gene editing.
A second woman in China is now pregnant with a gene-edited baby. The mother was among 8 other couples who suffered with HIV who were selected. Of these couples, 1 dropped out and 5 were unable to become pregnant. Of the 2 who became pregnant, 1 has already given birth to twin girls known as Lulu and Nana. The second woman is currently still pregnant.
He Jiankui, a Chinese scientist, promised these couples the possibility of having a baby that is resistant to HIV using CRISPR techniques. He went against the guidelines set by his country to edit a fetus and edited the genes of the babies to make them naturally resistant to HIV.
He Jiankui altered the embryos during fertility treatment. His goal was to resist possible HIV infection in the future. Gene editing is banned in the US as it can pass to future generations and risk harming our genes.
ISPR is a natural process that functions as a bacterial immune system, originally found in defending single-celled organisms such as bacteria against invading viruses. CRISPR uses two main parts. The first are short snippets of repetitive DNA sequences. The second are CRISPR-associated Cas proteins, which chop up DNA like molecular scissors.
In 2012, scientists figured out how to hijack CRISPR to target any DNA in any organism. With the right tools, this viral immune system becomes a precise gene editing tool which can alter DNA and change specific genes. In the lab, scientists design a guide RNA to match the gene they want to edit and attach it to Cas. Like the viral DNA in CRISPR immune system, the guide RNA directs Cas to the target gene and the protein's molecular scissors snip the DNA. This is the key to CRISPR's power.
Just by injecting Cas bound to a short piece of custom guide, RNA scientists can edit practically any gene in the genome. Once the DNA is cut, the cell will try to repair it. CRISPR can lead to extra or missing bases, which can make the resulting gene unstable and turned off. Gene editing is not limited to humans and does not always make the intended changes. It is difficult to predict long-term CRISPR editing.
Although his intentions may have been good, He Jiankui has been shamed by over 100 scientists who called his work monstrous and potentially unsafe. Government officials claim that He Jiankui had gone against an official ban to carry out his work in secret, and he is now facing questioning and punishment for his actions.
We spoke to a biologist, Mr. Baker, to find out more about gene editing.
I think that gene editing is a good idea, but as with most things with new sciences, they're often perverted to be used for things which aren't very morally good.
How would the gene editing work?
The Human Genome Project was completed in 2003. And from that point we could isolate, we knew where every gene was that produces every feature or every part of what makes a human. So by knowing where it is, we can go in and we can take out that gene, if it's a dysfunctional one for something like cystic fibrosis, and replace it with a gene that works, that we know that will do that job. Now unfortunately that would have to happen in every single cell, so it would have to happen in an embryonic stage, so it would be part of IVF or some process like that as well.
What do you think would happen in the future with gene editing?
Well, they are looking at gene editing at the moment in order to cure several genetic diseases. So as I already mentioned, cystic fibrosis, phenylketonuria, Tay-Sachs disease as well, all caused by dysfunctional genes. And if we can find and replace them, it means that parents who know they're going to have a child who has that disease, they know they've got a high percentage chance of having that child with that disease, they can then edit those genes. They can still take functional genes from the parents and replace them, so therefore it's not completely unnatural, it's still having some of the parents' genes, and use it for that. But as I said, most of this sort of science has been perverted at some point and used for something bad. I mean, could you imagine if Hitler had ever had access to this in the late 1930s? His drive for an Aryan race, if he'd have been able to use gene editing and some of the horrible experiments they did, it goes down that way. And he just used Darwin's base ideas without knowing what we know now.
Okay, that's alright. That's done.
Scary stuff. Locally, Cornwall was brought to standstill recently by snow. Here with more on this are Josh.
On the 31st of January, snow hit Bodmin and it set and it... What first came to your mind when you found out you couldn't get home?
I was more annoyed because the traffic shouldn't have been stopped in the first place.
What was the journey like?
The journey, it was okay until I got to the Blisland turn-off, and then a chap in a biffa lorry stopped the traffic, and I said, don't stop the traffic because it's snowing, and he said, no, we need to stop the traffic because there's a lorry. I said, we can all get past, and then a policeman stopped all the traffic on my side and the other side. And then by the time they told us we could go, it had snowed so much that we were all stuck. So it was long, it took 6 hours to get home. When
or how did you realise you could go to the Jamaica Inn?
I knew they were having people at Jamaica Inn, but I knew I could get home, so I knew I didn't have to go to Jamaica Inn because I was going the other way up to Launceston.
Thank you guys staying local now. A Nuki surfer is thought to have broken a world record for a big wave surfing. Here with the story Adam Toby.
Local surfer Tom Butler claims to have surfed his way into history by breaking the record of riding the biggest wave. Tom Butler, 29, from Newquay, took a huge swell at Nazaré in Portugal. The wave was more than 100 foot tall.
Test viewers and surfing experts were confident he had got better than the previous record of 80 foot, which was set earlier this year by Brazilian surfer Rodrigo Coxa.
Tom said surfing the wave was like running away from a raging bull. He must now submit the photos to the World Surf League, which will decide the claim ahead of the award ceremony.
Tom said it was the biggest wave surfed in the world this season and could beat the current big world record.
He will find out for sure if he has broken the world record later this month. In global news, scientists are thrilled to see that coral in Hawaii is recovering after mass bleaching. Ilias and Charlie have more on this story.
According to surveys conducted by the Nature Conservancy, Hawaiian coral reefs are showing signs of growth and stabilisation. The healthier reefs were generally located away from excessive exposure to human influences, but even the vulnerable cauliflower coral species that experienced 98% of bleaching in 2015 have shown signs of recovery. Above average seawater temperature caused by global warming is the leading cause of coral reef bleaching. According to the United Nations Environment Programme, between 2014 and 2016, the longest recorded global bleaching events killed coral on an unpredicted scale. In 2016, the bleaching of the coral Great Barrier Reef killed between 29 and 50% of the reef's coral. In 2017, the bleaching extended to the central region of the reef. The average interval between bleaching events has halved between 1980 and 2016.
Mr. Baker, what was your profession before you got into teaching?
I was a marine biologist.
And what do you feel about the coral reef bleaching?
I think that it takes out the basis of the food chains that so many organisms rely on, and we ourselves rely on, because it's the basis of a lot of the food chains within the oceans.
How do you think we could prevent the bleaching from happening again?
Well, bleaching is continuing to happen. It's slowing down a bit now. But mostly the coral bleaching is due to a change in the pH of seawater. So seawater should have a pH of around 8, which is in the alkaline side. Now, as more carbon dioxide goes into the atmosphere, it dissolves into seawater. And carbon dioxide, when it dissolves in water, makes carboxylic acids. And so therefore the pH is dropping. As soon as the pH drops, these tiny little organisms, because coral is a community of tiny little organisms. These tiny little organisms just can't cope with that sort of acid. It's the equivalent of putting you in an acid bath, really, for these tiny little organisms. But once you start to lose one, you're left with just the skeleton where this community once lived. And that's what's occurring. So what we need to do is prevent carbon dioxide from going into the atmosphere in the first place. So more sustainable energies, particularly things such as solar power, wind power and things like that, are a big step forward. But obviously one of the big ones at the moment is transport, and until we come with a better way of making electric cars, it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Okay, thank you.
Back to the studio.
Thank you. Here at Bodmin College, our Greenfield students have a new facility, the Hideout. Ben and Jasmine went to find out more.
The Hideout will provide them with exploration, empowerment, communication, as well as raising their confidence, engagement and independence. A sensory room would provide security, relaxation and freedom. It is a specially designed environment which creates focus on senses such as feel, vision, sound, smell. We interviewed the deputy head of Greenfield.
How long have you been the deputy head of Greenfield's department?
I've been working in Greenfields for about 12, 13 years, and in my current position for about 3 or 4 years as the deputy head of the department.
How would you describe the Hideout to someone who didn't already know?
The Hideout is a multi-sensory room, a space which will help calm, sort of relax students that have perhaps got difficult sensory needs, that find it difficult to kind of engage, relate to the environment around them, but at the same time maybe need a space where they can learn, but learn in a slightly different way. So rather than kind of at tables with workbooks, worksheets, even videos, a place where they can kind of explore and learn through touch, feel, light, sound. So we're talking about students with really quite acute difficulties that impact on their social emotional well-being, but particularly also their ability to learn and process information.
How do you think this will benefit the students?
I think the types of students that we've got in the future is going to change. I think we're going to be looking at having students with more profound learning and social difficulties coming into Greenfield, and I think that this will provide a haven for them where they will be able to, a safe place where they'll be able to go if they're feeling stressed out, and light, music, sound will help to keep them calm and relaxed, but also maybe provide an environment for them different to a kind of classroom, which might be a slightly more stimulating, engaging place to be. So hopefully, answering the question, two things. One, keeping them calm, happy, relaxed at school, and making them, providing opportunity maybe for them to learn more easily.
How long has the project been going on?
The Hideout project started through a couple of the support staff from the department. It's going back maybe the best part of 2 years ago, and it was a dream. It was really a dream, I suppose, to begin with, because it was going to require such a huge amount of funding, 25,000, and the staff just went for it, to be honest with you, and put a lot of work into organising fundraising activities in school time, outside of school time, with staff in the local community. They approached different places to get additional funding for, and so it was been sort of 2 years worth of hard effort, liaising with lots of fundraising groups, additional funding through grants, bursaries wherever possible, as well as also the company or the companies we've used to put the equipment in getting the right equipment, but at the right price and within the means of what we could feasibly do.
How many fundraisers has the school done?
Greenfield, well, we've done fundraising throughout the years, to be honest with you. We have often had small fundraising here for our own funds, which we put towards Activity Week. We've fundraised for the local community, particularly St Petrock's Church, where we used to run sort of soup mornings around Lent lunch, we used to call it, but soup mornings essentially, where we'd invite the local community to come in and enjoy some food with us. We provide the food for free, and they put donations in, and we put all that into worthy causes in the local community. So we've done a lot of fundraising over the years, and we also do a sponsored walk where we fundraise as well for our own Activity Week fund. So yeah, it's always something that we're always doing, but nothing to the scale of the Hideout.
To raise funds, they started a fundraiser called the Seven Peak Challenge, where the school selected students to come out of school to Cornwall Services to the Cliff and Climb Centre, where the students had to climb up as many walls as possible to recreate them climbing 7 peaks of a mountain. This encouraged spectators to donate to the charity fund at the end of the fundraiser. They had completed their challenge. After finding the right quote back in 2017, they decided to start on the conversion of the room, and it was finally a high enough standard for teachers to enter an experience in September 2018. In January 2019, when the students came back to school, they were greeted to the room being complete and operating. The room has a UV area which has special UV lights. It has a water feature on the left of the wall as you walk in, which creates a relaxing sound. Then there is a padded area for the students to relax, listening to sounds or looking at a background projected on the pads. The pad is touchscreen, so it can be used as an interactive whiteboard for lessons, games, or just a relaxing background.
What a fantastic project. In sporting news, skateboarding has always been popular in Cornwall, but there has been a growth in the industry over the last few years. And with report into this are Jamil, Adam and Keelan.
Skateboarding is becoming more and more popular in the UK due to becoming an Olympic sport in 2015.
Skating has always been a popular sport in Cornwall. New facilities have been built recently in Newquay and more are being planned for the country. Mount Hawke is making new changes that might make Cornwall the skate capital of the UK, including a BMX track due to be ready by Easter and camping sites on the property.
It started out in 1992 in a barn for youth groups with skating, scootering and BMXing. This grew bigger and more people started to join. Mount Hawke is still the biggest and best skate park in the southwest. It takes up 4.2 acres.
Over 200 people go every week, mostly on the weekend. We met manager Kieran Ryder to find out more.
What are you into skateboarding?
My history of skateboarding is actually very, very slim. So I grew up and I went off and played professional football for a few years. When I came back to Cornwall, an opportunity came up to manage Mount Hawke Skate Park. So my history is more to do with surfing and racing BMXs, which is actually what we do here as well, rather than skateboarding. However, I've got a massive amount of respect for what the guys are doing and girls.
Why do you think skateboarding is popular in Cornwall?
In Cornwall we've got a huge culture of board sports because we live so close to the coast. One of the earliest skateboards was found or was seen back in about 1967. We've been doing some research for a book recently. So when the Americans, the surfers, came over, one of the first places they came to in the UK was Cornwall, and they brought with them the surfing and they brought with them the skating, so there's been that correlation between the two.
Do you think skateboarding has got more popular in Cornwall recently?
Hugely. We've got a huge array of outside parks at the moment. We are looking to expand that, and I hope that Mount Hawke continues to be the hub of that as we continue to grow.
How has Mount Hawke grown over the years?
Mount Hawke started in 1996, so we're just over 30 years old now. It started off with a group of young people playing in the streets of Mount Hawke. A youth worker called Deanna Bullivant did something which you weren't allowed to do, and she invited them indoors and said, okay, this is the start of the youth club. About 2 years afterwards, £500 was donated by St Agnes Parish Council, and that was the start of a mini ramp. That very first night, a lot of them slept under the ramp for the first night, and those very same kids as they were then are now the adults that bring their kids here now. We've got a couple on the trustees board. So there's this real circular way of looking at Mount Hawke, and we hope one day that people's grandchildren and perhaps your kids, don't even think about it yet, will be coming down here.
What's the future of skateboarding?
It should look like it's a very, very positive future. If you look at the analogy of where snowboarding was 20 years ago, when you're on the slopes and someone went flying past you on a single plank of wood and you wondered what the hell that was, skateboarding now, it's always run in 12 yearly cycles, so it's at the moment it's supposedly on the bottom of a 12 yearly cycle, but if you look at it, it's now been accepted. It's got a national governing body, it's been accepted in the 2020 Olympics. There's more and more girls who are doing it, so the numbers are increasing, and schools are starting to recognise that that's what the kids want to do rather than the mainstream sports. So it's all about expressing individuality and uniqueness, and I think that's very much in line with future generations and what they want.
Staying in Cornwall, Connor and Max went to the 8th annual World Pasty Championships at the Eden Project.
At the Eden Project in Cornwall this weekend, people from all over the world come for the World Pasty Championships. It attracted people from as far as America and Asia, as well as local professionals and amateurs.
There were different categories to enter: Cornish Pasty Company, Open Savoury Company, Cornish Pasty Professional, Open Savoury Professional, Cornish Pasty Amateur, and finally Open Savoury Junior.
A baker from Kent took the #1 spot after being forced to miss last year's competition due to the Beast of the East snowstorm.
Jill Martin, who won the Open Savoury event, Her pasty contained bacon, egg and sausage. This was her breakfast pasty.
Jill said, Cornwall has a famous pasty, and I thought, why hasn't Kent got one? So I decided to create one. I'm still in shock from winning. I'm delighted, and I will come back next year even more determined.
We even have finalists from Bodmin College. Max spoke to Reese, a Year 11 student and finalist.
What category did you enter?
I entered both the open savoury and the classic pasty for the amateurs. For the open savoury, I entered a roadkill pasty. I entered a traditional steak in the classic.
What was in your roadkill pasty?
It had a hedgerow herb pastry, so it had rosemary, thyme and nettles for flavouring. And then the meats was boar, deer, pigeon, rabbit, and I had smoked bacon as well.
How did you do?
My open savoury, which is my roadkill, didn't get placed, but my classic came third.
Will you be entering again next year?
Yeah, most probably.
Thank you, Reese. Good luck next year. Back to the studio.
Well done, Reese. And finally, a new film based on Port Isaac is released nationwide next week. Our entertainment reporters Caleb and Dan have the details.
Fisherman's Friends are a well-known local corner sea shanty group. However, they are set to be known throughout the country as a new film has been made about them. The film is set in Port Isaac, Cornwall. There's about 10 fishermen getting signed by Universal Records. The film stars Tuppence Middleton, James Purefoy and Daniel Mays. The film is based on a true story about a band called Fisherman's Friends who used to sing sea shanties in Port Isaac but now sing around the country. It gets released in cinemas on March the 15th, 2019. Look forward to seeing it.
Here, Dad and I found another song last night.
What's that then?
Nelson's Blood. Love song, is it?
4 pints of lager, please.
We've got Gareth Ale, Bishop's Finger.
Do we know where it's been?
No, but I got a pretty good idea where he could stick it.
We're on a stag do. Would you mind backing up? My friend's only just passed his test.
It's a one-way street.
You're gonna have to back up.
Poor tosser. What's a tosser?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're the Fisherman's Friends.
Oh, this is bloody talk show. No, I want these guys sign up to Duke Managers. What kind of music were they singing?
The rock and roll of 1752.
The bottom line is, you've got a unique sound, and we believe we can help you get it released by a major label. Jago said there may be room at the inn.
Mom, the tosser's at the door.
As soon as they've signed on the dotted line, we'll get you out of there. These guys aren't interested in fame and fortune.
What I don't understand is why anyone will buy a record sung by 10 hairy-ass fishermen.
Your songs transport the listener to distant shores.
Your wake-up call.
If we did agree to let you manage us, you'd have to promise you wouldn't take a piss.
I'll give you my word.
Down here, a man's word is strong as Cornish oak.
I persuaded all 10 to sign on the dotted line. It was a joke, bro. I've given them my word. Wait, please.
I think it might be time for you to leave, Danny.
You need to push these guys overboard and let them sink without a trace. I've heard them sing with genuine passion about something we've all lost. You're singing in front of some big players here. Could be more important than that.
Saving lives.
All I'm asking for is a basic one-album deal. Nobody wants to be the man who missed out on signing the Beatles.
What about missing out on life in the meantime?
Remember what the well-known Irish singer said, Jim? I may be plain old Paul Hewson from Dublin. Put a pair of shades on. I'm Bonio.
Bono, you pillock.
Back to the studio.
Thank you for watching. Goodbye.